Good morning, everyone. I continue to talk from this text, opening the hand of thought. Today I start page 97, if we have the text. This is the beginning of the new section, and the title of the section is Interdependence and the Middle Way. Let me read two paragraphs. To look more deeply into the Buddhist notion of life, we have to take up the teachings of interdependence and the middle way. Buddhist teachings explain self as life, and they explain the vivid world self lives in as interdependence or the middle way. To digest the zazen of the true self settling on itself as Buddhism, we have to step back and look at these teachings. The early scriptures known as the Agamas or the Nikaya say, truly seeing the aggregation of the world, the view of non-existence does not arise. Truly seeing the non-substantiality of the world, the view of existence does not arise. The view that all things exist is one extreme. The view that nothing exists is the other extreme. Being apart from these two extremes, the Tathagata teaches the Dharma of the middle way. Because this exists, that exists. Because this arises, that arises. In this part of this text, Okumura Roshi is talking about the meaning or significance of our Zazen practice in terms of the modern civilization. And he said the modern civilization has a kind of an extreme way of life that is based on dissatisfaction and desire. So because of our dissatisfaction, we make effort, we work hard to make ourselves and the situation of our life better. So there's some goal we set up, and we only try to reach that goal. And when we reach the goal, we feel like our life is okay, or our life is successful. But when we reach that goal, we still feel dissatisfaction, and we need to go further. So within this path, there's no end. So we are always having dissatisfaction and always chasing after something. And in Buddhism, this is called hungry ghost. The more we get, the more we want. And Okumura Roshi said, within this way of life, there's no peace of mind to be found. So, but he said there's another kind of extreme, that is to see or to try to discover only the peace of mind. That means everything is okay. I don't care. That kind of attitude. And Okumura Roshi said that is a kind of a foolish civilization. So there are two extremes. One is crazy civilization. We always try to chase after something. And another extreme is we don't care. We become lazy. But Chamorro wanted to find the middle way between crazy civilization and foolish civilization. That is making effort without goal-oriented attitude. That means we make effort, but to reach the goal or not is not the primary goal. But we make effort and work hard or diligently to express our life force, not for fulfilling our desire. Is such a middle way possible or not? Is the question. And Uchimura said that is possible. And that is the very basis of Buddhist teaching. And from this section, he started to talk about the Buddhist teaching that allow us to find that middle way. And he said, in the title of this section is Interdependence and the Middle Way. But before that, he says in this title, Seimei no Kodo, that is structure of life. So in this section, he's talking about what is the structure of our life according to Buddhist teaching. And in Buddhist teachings, the structure of life is explained as interdependence and the middle way. And these two is, of course, most essential and important teaching of Shakyamuni in any tradition of Buddhism. According to the biography of Shakyamuni, based on the Pali text, when he attained awakening or enlightenment and became Buddha, he contemplated the 12 links of causation. 12 links, I think you know, links of causation, or in Japanese we call it Juni Engi. Or Juni Innen. Twelve links of causation is how our life becomes suffering. And the first is ignorance. And the last 12 is what is that? Old age and death, or in Japanese, Roshi. Old age and death. This is the suffering, the goal of our life. If we live based on ignorance. And 10 items. And En means conditions. And Gi is arise, to arise, or arising. Or usually this Engi is translated as interdependent origination or dependent origination. And Innen means in is cause and En is condition. So nothing arises without cause and conditions. Everything is arising and perishing depending upon the cause and the conditions. That is the literal meaning of this word interdependence. In the case of early Buddhism, it is called dependent origination. But in the Mahayana, it is called interdependent. Same Sanskrit or Pali word translated into two different English, because the idea is really different. In the case of early Buddhism, ignorance is cause of formation, and the formation is a cause of consciousness, and consciousness is a cause of next one, and finally reach life, old age and death. 11th is verse. Because we are born, we have to accept aging and dying. In this case, the cause and result is one direction. The birth is a cause of aging and dying, but aging and dying is not a cause of birth. So it's only one way, not going other way. That is why it is called dependent origination. This cause is dependent on this one, and this is caused because of another one. So that is why this is called a dependent origination. And the idea of this dependent origination is itself a kind of a middle way between, when we think of our life, we have many different experiences. Sometimes we are in favorable conditions. Other time we feel painful situation. And we human beings think, what is this thing? And what determines our fortunate or unfortunate way of life? And around the time of Buddha, according to Buddhist scholars, around the time of Buddha, there are two main ideas how our life is determined. And the first one is our life is what we experience in our life is determined by God. Some kind of God or kind of a fate. That means everything is already determined by God or something, or just a fate. Everything is determined. And second one is everything is accident. Everything accidental. And in the both cases, our effort, our free will is not possible. We cannot make choice. We cannot change because everything is already determined. And or another idea is everything is accident. Then our effort toward certain direction doesn't make sense. So our life is based on in and en and ka. Ka is fruits or result. Based on the idea of karma. Karma means our actions. So this idea of our life, what happens, or what kind of life we can spend, based on the causes and the result, based on our activity, action, depending on what we do. We our life can be changed. That means, it's not accident. There are certain cause and result. But depending upon what we do, for example, our situation, our condition at this present moment is a result of what we did in the past. So our situation or our choice is limited or conditioned in certain degree. But we can make change. We can make choice depending upon what we do at this present moment. Our future can be different. And when we take one action, then that action allow us to go to a certain result. So this is not our life. According to this idea of dependent origination, our life is not 100% determined by something like God, or our life is not completely accidental, but certain degree we have condition. But within this condition, for certain degree, we can make choice. We can have a free will, and we can make choice depending upon the choice we do at this moment. Our future might be different. That is the meaning of this interdependent or dependent origination. And in order to avoid our life become suffering, we have to first of all we have to make the change of this ignorance, first cause, and we can transform our life instead of based on ignorance. We need to nurture wisdom. Ignorance means lack of wisdom. So when we have wisdom to see the reality of all beings, then we can be free from life and death. I think we are all familiar with the Heart Sutra. In the first sutra it says, Mumu myoyaku mumu myojin, naishi mu roshi yaku mu roshi jin. This mumyo is ignorance. And roshi is old age and death. And in the Heart Sutra, 10 items between these two are abbreviated within what in English. In Japanese, it is naishi, means between this and this. So there's no ignorance and there's no old age and death. And yet the Heart Sutra said there's no extinction of ignorance and no extinction of old age and death. That is also an expression of middle way. Anyway, this is what Engi or dependent origination means in the early Buddhist teachings. So in that case, cause and result is one direction. And after he attained awakening, he had some hesitation to teach. But because of the heavenly God, Brahma asked him 3 times, Buddha made decision to teach. And he walked to the deer field and started to teach the 5 monks who used to practice with him. And when they met, Buddha met with those 5 monks, the first thing he said, according to the Pali Sutta of first discourse of Buddha, the first thing he said was, I found a middle way. I found a middle way. And this middle way is avoiding two extremes. Two extremes means self-indulgence and self-mortification. In Shakyamuni Buddha's life, self-indulgence means while he stayed at his father's palace, he was provided everything he wanted because his father didn't want him to become a monk. So his life was very rich, and he could have everything he wanted, and he was young, strong, and healthy. But when he saw one day, when he get out of his father's palace, he found aging person, sick person, and dead person. So he first found the suffering of human life, and because of that, he left home and became a spiritual practitioner. That means he thought the life pursuing the pleasure or fulfilling desire is not a healthy way of life. And what he practiced after that, before he became enlightened, was very strict ascetic practice. Said he didn't eat except one or a few grain of some kind of grain, or he stopped breathing until he almost dead. So that is what self-mortification means. And he found both way of life is not healthy, is not meaningful. So he said, I found a middle way, means middle way between two extremes. One is a life of self-indulgence, another is self-mortification, or even like a torture. That is original meaning of this word, middle way, or in Japanese, chu do. Chu is middle, and do is way. So way of the middle. That is the middle way between these two extremes. That is what Buddha taught. So from the very beginning of the Buddhist history, or even Buddha's own experiences, to discover the principle of cause and result, or dependent origination, and middle way is really important. And this teaching continued. So his entire way of life, for after his enlightenment, he continued to teach more than 40 years. So maybe I need to add another one. After he said, I found a middle way between self-indulgence and self-mortification, he started to teach four noble truths. And I think you already know that Four Noble Truths are. That is suffering. Our life is suffering. And cause of suffering. That is the second Noble Truth. And the cause of suffering is three poisonous mind. That is greed, anger or hatred, and ignorance. Because of those three poisonous mind, our life become suffering. So here is again cause and result. And he said the third truth is cessation of suffering. So he said, cessation of suffering is possible. And the cause of cessation of suffering is the path. And that path is Eightfold Noble Path. And before that, when he said, I found a middle way, that he mentioned that middle way means Eightfold Noble Path. And he talks about Eightfold Noble Path again as a part of Four Noble Truths. So he talked the same Eightfold Noble Path. That is our practice, our way of life. It's a concrete way of life. He talked about this Eightfold Noble Path twice. Once as a middle way, and the second time as a part of Four Noble Truths. I think this is a really important point. Means in the Four Noble Truths, this is a teaching for the people who are still suffering. And Buddha taught the cause of suffering to those people. And he encouraged people, there is a possibility to reach the cessation of suffering. And the path to reach the cessation of suffering is Eightfold Noble Path. So this is a teaching to the people who are still in suffering. And he encouraged, if you practice Eightfold Noble Path or live in that way, it's possible to reach the cessation of suffering. But for Shakyamuni himself, the middle way and the Eightfold Noble Path is not a cause for cessation of suffering, because he was already enlightened. He was already free from suffering. And he did not practice Eightfold Noble Path before his enlightenment. But he found the middle way and Eightfold Noble Path, healthy way of life, within his enlightenment. And the rest of his life, he practiced Eightfold Noble Path. So for him, Eightfold Noble Path is not a cause, a path, but it's a result of his awakening. So these two, way of teaching of Eightfold Noble Path are slightly different. And this is the important point. That means when we are sick, we need a medicine to restore health. But if our Buddhist teaching or Buddhist practice is a medicine or treatment, then when we restore health, we don't need to continue to practice. But for Buddha Shakyamuni himself, that was a starting point of his practice of Eightfold Noble Path. That means whether we are sick, or whether we restore health, we need to continue to practice the same Eightfold Noble Path. Even after we attained enlightenment or become Buddha, we have to follow Shakyamuni's life. That means he continued to practice Eightfold Noble Path or the middle way until his death, his passing away. So often Buddhism or Buddhist teaching or Buddhist practice is called like a therapy in this country. If it's a therapy or treatment, then when we become healthy, there's no reason we need to continue. But if we understand this point, then when we become healthy, we continue, to live in a healthy way of life. So this Eightfold Noble Path is one way. Whether we are sick or we are already healthy, we just keep practicing or living, practicing this Eightfold Noble Path. So there's only one way or one path. Anyway, that is the meaning of interdependence or independence or dependent origination and the middle way in early Buddhism or Shakyamuni's teaching. But in Mahayana Buddhism, they kind of make a little difference. The difference is basically made by a very important and famous master and philosopher in Mahayana, whose name was Nagarjuna. In that writing of Nagarjuna, he made a slight difference between these two things, not between, but about these two very important essential points of Buddhist teaching about envy or dependent origination. In Nagarjuna's teaching, this is not one direction, but Nagarjuna said everything is connected with everything. So it's not one way, it can be both ways. That means, for example, parents and children. Of course, in our common way of thinking, children is a cause. No, parents are cause of children, and children are result of parents' life. But in order to these people become parents, they need children. Unless they have children, they cannot be called a parent. So parents allow these people become a parent. Without children, they cannot be a parent. So parents and children are dependent to each other, interdependent to each other. That is what interdependent means. So in this case, cause and result are not only one direction, but it's also two directions or mutual dependence. This is a kind of interesting thing. Within this English word interdependence, there is both dependence and independence. If there's no independence, there's no interdependence because they are one. But if there's no independence, it's not possible to be interdependent. And if there's no dependence, there's no, again, interdependence is not possible. So within this one word, it has these two are not one and not two. It's meant. These are certain degree independent. Children are not parents, and parents are not children. They are independent. But without children, there's no parent. And without parent, there's no children. So these are one and two at the same time. In Buddhism, we don't say two, but we say not one. So one and yet not one. And another, that is how Nagarjuna changed the concept of dependent origination to interdependent origination. And from there, he said everything is interconnected, not only like parents and children, but everything within this Indra's net. All things are interconnected. This one and this one is connected, and this one and this one is connected. Actually, everything is connected or interconnected. And yet, not and yet, and each of these things can exist only as a relation of the thread. So actually, there's no such independent entity. In my case, like a shock. Without relation with other people, that means my parents, my brothers and sisters, my friends, and everything within this society. There's no such person called Shohak. Shohak can exist as a Shohak, as an independent person, because of the relation with others. So when we see only this one knot, there's no such thing called one knot without relation with others. That is another meaning of interdependent origination. Everything is connected with everything. And this connection is actually there. Without connection, there's no such independent beings. That is the Mahayana understanding of interdependent origination. So it's a little different from the original meaning of what Shakyamuni taught. And about the middle way, Nagarjuna said, this Engi is itself middle way. Engi is interdependent origination, is itself middle way. And as I said, interdependent origination is same thing with emptiness. There's no such independent being as Shohak, or as a sheet of paper, or a pair of glasses, or water in the glass. That is what emptiness or shunyata means. So each things are empty, because each things can exist only within relation with others. And Nagarjuna said that is the meaning of middle way. So middle way, in this case, middle way is not the middle between two extremes of self-indulgence and self-mortification. But in this case, this middle way means between, according to his writing, U and Mu. U is being or existence, and Mu is non-being, or Mu literally means nothingness. And according to Nagarjuna, the middle way means middle way between U and Mu, or neither U and Mu. So the expression is he U, he Mu. Not U, not being, and not non-being. And that is what emptiness means. So emptiness does not mean negation of being. Negation of being is Mu. And emptiness means neither U nor Mu. That means it's there and yet it's not there. Means it's, these 5 skandhas are here, and this is called shohaku. But there's no such thing called a shohaku as a independent entity that can exist without relationship with others. And this shohaku, these 5 skandhas, have to change when all other things are changed. So there's no such independent entity. But as a non-independent entity, it is there. So this is happening. This is not existing. This is happening. That is what he or he mu means. And that is what emptiness means. So emptiness is not a negation of being, simply. But emptiness is also a negation of nothingness. So this is what middle way means in Nagarjuna. So this becomes more like a philosophical idea. And because of this change, the meaning of interdependent origination, Nagarjuna uses the same word, dependence or interdependence origination, and the middle way, same word with the word Shakyamuni Buddha used, but the content is different. That is a difference between early Buddhism or Buddhism before Mahayana and Mahayana teachings. So we kind of traditionally we used to think, Nagarjuna was a kind of a reform the Buddhist teachings. But the quote which Roshi is using here is from Pali Nikaya. And also this exists, the same sutra, actually, in 2 separate sutras, the same teaching was mentioned. And in this quote, Buddha is teaching about the middle way between U and Mu. That is what this quote is saying. So let me read this quote again. Truly seeing the aggregate of the world. I am going to talk about this quote in detail next week. So just let me read without explanation in detail. Truly seeing the aggregate of the world. Aggregate means getting together or arising. The view of non-existence, this non-existence is new, does not arise. Truly seeing the non-substantiality, that means dispersing, of the world, the view of existence, that is U, does not arise. The view that all things exist is one extreme. This is one extreme. And the view that nothing exists, that is Mu, is the other extreme. Being apart from these 2 extremes, the Tathagata teaches the Dharma of the middle way. So at least in this sutta, in both in Pali Nikaya and also Chinese Agama, Buddha is teaching about the middle way between U and Mu. So when we study Nagarjuna's or Mahayana teachings, This sutra is often quoted as Nagarjuna's teaching is not his personal idea, but Nagarjuna was faithful to Shakyamuni Buddha's teaching, appeared or found in this Nikaya. That is why I think Uchiyama Roshi quote this sayings of Buddha from Nikaya or Agama. Well, it's already 11. I'm going to talk about this quote. It takes time next week. So I think this is a good place to stop. Do you have any question? I think this is important to know that Uchiyama Roshi's basic understanding of Buddhist teaching is based on Nagarjuna's so-called philosophy or teaching of emptiness. That is Madhyamika teaching. Madhyamika means middle way. So Nagarjuna's school was called Madhyamika school. Madhyamika school means the school which sees the middle. And what Uchiyama Roshi is talking or discussing about his Zazen practice as a practice of middle way based on Nagarjuna's teaching. So in order to understand our Zazen practice, we need to have some certain understanding of what Nagarjuna taught. And what Nagarjuna taught came from what Shakyamuni taught. That is what Uchiyama Roshi wanted to say when we did Uchiyama Roshi quote this particular sutta or sutra in early Buddhist scriptures. So that means he wanted to say his or Dogen Zazen is based on very essential teaching of Shakyamuni and the essential teaching of Mahayana, that is Nagarjuna's. So all connected. This is another dependent origination or interdependent origination. Okay, any question or comment, please?
It seems like the Himu, the Shunya, the emptiness, it's not a very easy position to be in for a person, a human.
Yes.
It's not very easy.
Not easy for our thinking, because these two, Wu and Mu, are contradicted. If we accept both at the same time, then we feel the contradiction. It doesn't say anything, whether it's Wu or Mu. When we study very basic elementary logics, it said there are three principles. That is, identity means A should always A, and avoid contradiction. That means A cannot non-A. And the third is exclude middle. That means there's nothing which is between A and non-A. That is the very basic principle of logics. That is how our thinking works. So if we have to accept both Wu and Mu at the same time, this means A equal non-A. This is very much against our way of thinking. That's why it's really difficult to accept for human beings. And also, we are attach ourselves to these five skandhas, and we call these five skandhas is me. And this me or I, we think is the owner of the five skandhas, because this I is a subject. But this idea means there's no such I that is the owner and the operator of these five skandhas. What the Buddha taught is five skandhas are all there is, or there are. So five skandhas are only there, but somehow these five skandhas, collection of five different aggregates, are attached to themselves and think this is me. And our thinking came from that me. So when we are pointed out there's no such me is there, then we feel, what is this? What am I doing? That's why this is really difficult to accept and to really see. And if we see this kind of carelessly, we become nihilistic. There's nothing. And that Nagarjuna called that nihilistic understanding of emptiness as a sickness of emptiness. For him, this emptiness is nothing negative. This is not nihilistic. If we think nothing is there, mu, then it's nihilistic. But Nagarjuna said there's not mu, but not u. So this is not nihilistic at all. According to Buddhist, this is not nihilistic, but realistic. That it's there and yet it's not there at the same time completely. And this is really against our logical way of thinking or conceptual way of thinking. That's why it's really difficult to accept this teaching. But once we see the real things happening around us or within us without clinging to our logical way of thinking, then I think we start to see, this is really true. That's why I think we need some kind of meditation practice. In our tradition, that is Zazen. In our Zazen, we let go of this way of thinking and directly see or experience what's happening within our thinking. When we really thinking, we think this me that is thinking is the subject, without assuming there is me. All that thinking doesn't make sense, not possible. But when we let go of thinking in our Zazen, that means thoughts are coming and going. We don't eliminate thinking, but this thinking is somehow spring up from our consciousness without me. So this is happening. But usually we think this is my idea, so I have to take action based on this thinking. And we make karma. But at least in our Zazen, when we let go of thought, those thoughts are coming and going, and yet that is not me. And the person who is sitting is not me. But this is simply five skandhas. Five skandhas are being there. And within five skandhas, interconnectedness of five skandhas, all different kinds of thought arising. This is a function of our brain. Brain is a part of our five skandhas. And the function of our brain is produce thinking. So thinking is not something we have to eliminate, but thinking is something we have to always follow and take action. So thinking is neither negated nor grasped. That is the way we see. Thinking are not so. Our thinking is not so. How can I say? What is the word? Absolutely true. We have so many different kind of nonsensical thinking, and we, moment by moment, we may think completely different way. Sometimes we think kind of a very positive way, and the next moment we may be very negative way. So we see our thinking is not fixed. It's coming and going. And yet when we start to think, we choose this side or that side, and this is my thinking. So I need to take action based on this thinking. So there are kind of two layers in our life. That is what Okumura Roshi is saying. One layer is thinking, and I think this is me, and take action based on my thinking, because this is my possession. I have to do things based on my thinking. But Okumura said there are another layer that is called, he called this deeper layer as a life. So thinking as me as a thinking, and me or self as a life. And he said life but life includes thinking. But thinking cannot include life. Life is much larger or deeper. But thinking is only a function of our brain. Well, why I am talking this? I forget your question.
That's perfect.
Okay. Anything else? Please.
So at the beginning you were talking about different views of, so we're governed by fate, or we're governed by accident, or and then there's the view we're governed by our own free will and make our own decisions. I wonder, is it not necessarily, I find it hard to believe that we're completely free will based on karma and the reasons I'm here. Some things I couldn't determine. I didn't have the free will to determine I was in Indiana. I'm here. So does Buddhism have this thought of like we have free will, or what's the free will versus karma versus and is it the same sort of view as in being and not being? You have free will in a sense, but on a higher level you're being governed by karma. Like, your thoughts aren't necessarily your thoughts either.
I think the principle of karma is the middle way, itself middle way. Karma means we are already conditioned in certain degree by what happened in the past. When we are born, we cannot make choice to be born in Japan or in the United States, or men or women, and this is beyond my choice where we are born and whose child I can be. We cannot choose our parents. And when we are born within certain family, within certain country, we are raised within certain culture. In my case, I was born in Japan, so my first language was Japanese. I couldn't make any choice until that kind of things. So the situation we are born in, and also if we are born, we already inherit some kind of DNA from the history of the life, from the very beginning of the history of life until we are born. Things are happening, and even my birth is a result of the life experienced, and we can't make change about the past. So I am determined or conditioned in certain degree, but based on that conditions, we can make choice this way or that way. For example, Sawaki Roshi's life. Sawaki Roshi's parent died when he was very young, and he was adopted by step-parents, and his stepfather was a gambler, and his stepmother was an ex-prostitute. And they sent Sawaki Roshi to the elementary school, and he finished 4 years of school. That's all all the education he received. And after he finished the elementary school, his step-parents made him to watch the, what do you call, the place they did gambling against the police. And his step-parents made him to sell something for the people playing gamble. So his life was very difficult and not so healthy at all. If someone or many people raised in that situation probably live in the same way with their children, their parents. But somehow Sawaki Roshi didn't like his parents' way of life. So he escaped and went to Heiji to become a monk. So here is some choice, whether he continue his parents' way of life. I think the Shakyamuni had the same choice. He was born as a prince, and he couldn't make choice. But whether he took over his father's position or become a monk is his choice. So, and Sawaki Roshi had the same kind of, choice. And so to become a monk was his free will, I think, because no one asked him or forced him to become a monk. So even though our way of life is conditioned and fixed in certain way, that is karma, our karma. We cannot reject our karma because it's already given. But on the basis of that karmic conditions, we can make choice whether we or Shakyamuni followed his father's path or left home and became a Buddhist monk. And I think all of us is the same. We are born with certain conditions, and yet whether we live in this way or that way is our choice. So there's certain space of free will, and we make choice. We can make choice, and based on that choice, we do things. And depending upon what we do, our future might be very different. Sawaki Roshi could become a gangster, but he could become a Zen master. So that in that way, the principle or theory of karma is a middle way between everything is fixed before we are born. So there's no choice possible. Even the choice is already determined, or everything is accident. So we cannot expect anything by our free will. Does it make sense? Or is this the answer to your question?
I think so.
But in a sense, because this is a middle way, from that point of view, if everything is determined, this idea of middle, karma is like a accident. But when we see from the idea of everything accident, the theory of the karma is already means kind of our life is already determined. There are two sides. Certain degree our life is determined, and certain degree we have a free choice. So it can be seen from two sides. Does that make sense? Please.
I was going to say that wasn't that the point of the Dogen's writing about the painted rice cake? That
that is what
we
we
already painted, and we also painted.
But it's also an action you're also currently being painted as well. Like it's not just the past; it's it's in the present too.
Right. So we are conditioned, like we are already painted. That is what I talked during the last Genzo in May. And yet we need to paint. So being painted and painting are both our life. Okay. Anything else?
I sure have a question.
Okay, please.
Well, I just wanted you in the context, I wanted to see if you would put the line that's in the Heart Sutra that I've always had a problem with, and that is all dharmas are forms of emptiness. If you could put that line in the context of this talk, maybe it's obvious, but for me it's
all dharmas
are forms of emptiness.
Forms of emptiness. All dharmas
Or marks that emptiness.
Is the
they
It's the
show
translation in the Zen Mountain uses. What's it?
that original Chinese or the sentences, they show hokuso. Shoho is all dharmas. That means all beings. And ku is emptiness, and so is form. So all dharmas are form of emptiness is a possible translation. And this came from what is said before this. That means form is emptiness, and emptiness is form. And not only the form is one of the five skandhas. Form, sensation, perception, formation, and consciousness. They are all emptiness. And emptiness are those five aggregate. That is why all beings are form of emptiness. But actually, this four emptiness has no form. So this expression is a kind of a strange or kind of contradicted because emptiness has no form. Okay. Okay, anything else? Okay, thank you very much.